my friends, and we'll follow up with our second clue via remind or email at the beginning of the call. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
All right. Everything she just said today kicks off. So who has an EOC today?
Me.
Y'all do what one do y'all have? Second block.
Yeah, we got it in mass.
So first things first, we might not have a traditional timing of the bell schedule. In fact, what did she just say about bells? There won't be bells, right? So also with that said, sometimes I'll get real itchy on your schedule, or you're packing up at a certain time because you know it's the time to pack up. That's not what we're going to do today. I'm going to get through some class content because I have to, right? I'm still teaching you something. You probably, I don't know, if I were you, I'd be wondering why there's popcorn at the front of the room. So I'm going to we got some fun. I got a fun little demonstration, try to break through, keep you engaged, right? I got a fun little demonstration for us. And I'm going to try to give you that pause right before your math EOC. Okay? Try to let you shake it out and just get your head straight for the math EOC. So the best thing, Thea, sometimes the best thing in test preparation is to be distracted about it, right? You might think that, oh, I want to cram for the math EOC right now. The best thing you can do is just kind of relax. Say a little bit about history. And then with the hour kind of being longer than normal, I know that I'll be done. And I'll let you have that pause right before you head into the algebra EOC. Sound good? Sound good? Okay. What you got on your table in front of you, file it. Whatever it be, go ahead and file it. Some of these things I made are just a participation grade, right? You turned in the internet scavenger hunt. Good for you. And, just getting us on down the line of the semester here, okay? So if you don't see ink on it, or if you don't see a grade written on it, that's the why. If there's nothing written on it, it's not a low grade. It's probably just a blanket 100. All right. If you ever need to, if you ever have a question about your grades, you let me know. If you can log into Your Infinite Campus and be responsible for your own grades, wow, what a good thing to do, right? What a grown-up thing to do. Monitoring your own grades. Now, if you're locked out on your password, instead of, and I'm only saying this because several students say this to me along the way, Lima, on shoot. If you're locked out of your password, what we need to do is help you get your password so that you don't have to go to your teacher every single time and say, can you check my grade? Because I know all y'all got that magic little personal device in your back pocket, right? Phone of some sort. And you can check your own grades instantly on your student portal. So that is a good way to take ownership and to have responsibility for your own grades. And especially, let's say that I didn't have a page for you. I plug in a 0, but you swear you turned it in. Well, at least if you see that pop up on your student portal, it's kind of late in the semester for me to be saying this, but if you see that pop up on your student portal, you can be like, yo, Swanson, you're bad because I definitely turned that in. I did. And to that, I will usually say, well, show it to me, right? I make mistakes, show it to me, and I'll fix that. But the point is, the fact that you knew your grade was able to get your attention, and we were able to talk about that. So instead of, what's my grade? Can you check for me? You can have it right in your own back pocket. So you can have it in your own back pocket. All right. Test yesterday, we're fair to middling. Okay, we did fine. We had some high scores. Okay, two top scores of 95, and then we had we had 80s and 70s. Had 90s. Whoa. Trends of the test. There were a couple of questions. I was surprised that. Statistically speaking, we missed at a higher percentage than I would have expected. No question is going to be like 100%. Everybody gets it right? I mean, I'm not built. We don't have easy questions that are just in a group of 25, someone's probably going to get that question wrong. So I never wow, somebody missed this question and they shouldn't have. It's not like that at all. But I do want to look at statistics, and if only 50% of you got a question correct, I'm going to be like, what did I not say right? What did we not teach right? Do we need to reassess that? So I always look at your data. I always look at, how I could do better in a classroom as well. And there were a couple questions that make me want to make sure I spoke it correctly. And with all that said, by and large, our exams were very good. So I don't have it totally aggregated today. I think I got one person that still needs to take it, but I will have prizes for our top test scorers. Me. Per the usual. I gotta check. I'm glad that you like that. Okay. Today's notes for you. I'm gonna pass it out. I'm just gonna do it myself here. These are actually for the next 3 days. So this is an important 2 pages here. Don't misplace it over the next couple of days because this is gonna be your page for the next 3 days. As I described yesterday, this is a chunk of learning that kind of. We're in a period of time in U.S. history because the U.S. starts to take a leading role on the world stage. So, also, this is a pre-setup for your U.S. history class. Hey,
But I like talking to you life.
You trying to get recognized on social media? Trying to go viral? So it's called go viral. Alright. Alright, you got your page in front of you. What is our big topic of the rest of the week?
Cold War.
The Cold War. Well, I got a question for you.
I know what it is.
It's freezing cold.
If it's so cold, how come it doesn't just put on a jacket? Oh, I killed me too. Now, Cold War, so it is named that way for a reason. We're going to talk about why it's a Cold War. We're going to talk about why it's not called a hot war. We're going to talk about why it's named as such. Who are the 2 big players?
Russia and the United States.
Soviet Union.
Let me teach y'all through this.
Britain!
No, not Britain.
I can teach y'all through this whole thing.
Russia and the United States. Have you talked about this before?
Yeah, I can teach you.
Is this 8th grade or anything?
I mean, I heard it, but.
Okay,
Yeah, let me let you.
All right, now we got some interview this morning. The picture I got on the screen. Why is there a bear? And then who's the other guy?
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
No, they just trying to show you that the bear is bigger than him.
Okay, the bear is bear.
No,
Oh,
how strong is
the bear?
I don't know, bro.
The bear. So Uncle Sam, you guys readily recognize. Red, white, and blue. The white beard. Uncle Sam. In terms of the world stage, especially if there's going to be cartoons drawn or political cartoons of any sort, Uncle Sam's going to represent the United States. So clearly in this picture, Uncle Sam is representing the United States. Something for you to know, this might be new to you, the bear is connected to the Soviet Union. It's often called, the Soviet Union is often called the bear. Is it because there's grizzly bears in the Soviet Union, frozen tundra? Maybe, I don't know, but it's a kind of a bear-like attitude that the Soviet Union had. So in terms of all things sketched or drawn, or if we see a political cartoon of any sort, the bear is going to be representing the Soviet Union. I just wanted to lay that out for starters. So that's kind of the starting point, the setup. We are going to be talking about the Cold War. The notes in front of you will go pretty much in order. So your first one is the Cold War, and here's that nice, tidy definition of the Cold War for you. Hey, so write this down. This is your notes. A period of tension between the United States and the USSR, which it is not correct to call it Russia, okay? It is the Soviet Union, or it's actually the United Soviet States of Russia, USSR. You should refer to it as the Soviet Union. I will try to say USSR or Soviets or Soviet Union, but today it is present-day Russia, and sometimes that phrase may just slip out, right? So I'm just kind of distinguishing. It's not exactly Russia yet. It is a collection of states that make up the Soviet Union. But if I say the word Russia, we're talking about the same thing. Period of tension. Now, I told you it's a Cold War, and if it's so cold, it should put a jacket on. We haven't talked about a Cold War yet. So what is one of the major characteristics of a Cold War?
They don't fight.
Say it again.
They don't fight.
They don't fight. Yeah, that's exactly right, Aiden. They don't fight with bombs and
That's why they
bullets.
call it cold.
But rather, I think the best word, and that's why it's the definition, the best word is tension, okay? If there's tension in the room, if there's tension between your parents, or there's tension in the locker room between your teammates, like describe what is tension.
Like very quiet.
Very quiet, maybe, but you're
Rage.
still communicating, right? Quiet communication, anger, rage, but not fists being thrown if it was a fighting situation, or in this case, not bombs and bullets flying. Tension. So, and then notably, it is after World War II. Because if you remember where we left off, and I'm about to remind you about all that, where we left off, the Soviets and the Americans were hugging each other at the end of World War II. Because yay for us, we beat Hitler together. Well, how can we go from hugging each other in friendship to tension so fast? I'm about to tell you about all that. A little bit more on what is the Cold War. So here's what we're going to be talking about. You don't need to write this down unless you're Madison, who writes down everything. Major concepts are brinkmanship, containment, and the Truman Doctrine. We're getting to all of those. And then this includes, and the Marshall Plan. And this includes the nuclear arms race. So nuclear atomic technology that's new. Now we're going to talk about how the two countries competed with each other related to that. The space race, and then the Korean War and the Vietnam War. So I'll tell you, this is more than world history classes in this room have gotten in the past couple of years. We're expanding the knowledge of the world history class a little bit here. So good on you. You're going to get a double dose of this type of learning, especially as you roll into U.S. history. So this is where we're going. Let's go ahead and get there. Now, when we talk about the Cold War, we are talking about an international issue. This is your second blank to fill in. An international issue. What is the definition of international?
That's within all the countries.
The world.
Between countries. Yeah, that's right. Around the world. So an issue, of course, is a problem. International issues extend outside of a country's border and is between other countries. This is an international issue because it is involving two different countries. And then I will just go ahead and distinguish, and it's not, lovey-dovey, it's a small world after all, holding hands, kumbaya, peace on earth. Obviously, we have problems. And I will distinguish between what is known as a domestic issue. What does domestic mean?
Wow.
So a lot of times we might hear that someone got charged with domestic violence. Domestic itself does not mean the violence, but when someone gets charged for that, what happened in their home?
A problem. Fight.
Yeah, I think I kind of just said the word. Domestic means home. So when we say domestic violence, right, someone got charged with DV, and I'm not trying to get in anyone's story here, something happened at home. So domestic means home. You might also hear the phrase that your pets are domesticated, such as there's wild horses, but there's also domesticated horses. My point here is domestic means at home. When we step into U.S. history, we'll also talk about some at-home issues, but that is not the scope of this class being world history. So I just wanted to kind of bring you some vocab, international versus domestic. We're going to hang out with the international
So
issues.
just plug it in your mind that domestic means the U.S. We're talking international, that's everybody else, but domestic is at home
That's right.
here in the U.S.
I'm making you a better news watcher, too. You turn on Fox or CNN or any of them, you're going to hear them talk about international versus domestic. Maybe you never understood those words before, but now you do. All right, this is where we left off. On the left-hand side there, that is an American GI. You can even see the stars and stripes behind him. And on the right-hand side there, that is a Russian officer, soldier. These gentlemen are both lieutenants. So you got an American lieutenant and a Russian lieutenant. And they have just united following the Battle of Berlin. And I hope that you recognize that that is where Hitler died and Germany fell. So the United States, the Russians, we squeezed the life out of Berlin and literally met in the middle and embraced. So the smiles on their faces, I think you can tell it's genuine. If you want to know if a smile is genuine, you also got to look at the eye creases. Anyone can fake a smile, but a genuine smile usually gives you a little bit of an eye crease. So I would guess these guys have a genuine smile and a genuine embrace. But about how long do you think that this attitude lasted between the countries?
Like a couple months.
About 3.5 minutes. Now I'm being a little sarcastic on that. Kyra's right. Just a few weeks or months at most. Because following World War II, we immediately have the issue of how to administer Germany. And I think we left you off right here. I know I wasn't in class, but I think we left you off with how Germany got divided between the Allied nations. So I like this map because there's 4 different colors. You can see that, and then follow the flag. You can see that the British were given a sector to administer, green, the French in blue, and then the Americans in yellow. And then here's where the divide happens. The Soviet Union is given this quadrant in red. Well, these 3 countries, France, America, and the United Kingdom, we generally agree with each other economically, socially, politically. We are on the same side of democracy and freedom. Well, these cats right here, they follow a government called communism, which I'm about to define for you. But suffice it to say, democracy, capitalism, and communism, they're opposites. So while we were friends, we had a common enemy in Hitler for a short while. Now we're going to have issues with how to administer Germany going into the future. So you might say that the green, blue, and yellow, this is one sector, and then the red becomes its own sector. Now I like this map because it only shows two colors. It turns into West Germany and East Germany. West meaning democracy, capitalism supported by the United States. East in red meaning supported by the Soviet Union and governed by communism. Additionally, I'm not trying to make it too confusing, but additionally, the capital city of Berlin, look at that. See that little splotch of blue? They split the city right down the middle. Even though it is like behind the East German lines, they split the city right down the middle. So amidst East Germany, you have this sliver that is governed by democracy, capitalism, and the United States. Do you see that the stage is set for problems? If you got a boundary dispute with your neighbor, but you don't have any buffer space between the two of y'all, you're gonna have some issues. Well, we were gonna have some issues. Here's a little bit more of a colorful map. This is Berlin, just like you might see a city, city map of Atlanta or Jacksonville or anything like that. This is the city of Berlin. And the red here, this is what's known as the Berlin Wall, and it's going to be erected in 1961. It's going to be a 96-mile-long wall, 6 feet high, maybe 8 feet high, for 96 miles, literally separating East Germany from West Germany, democracy from communism. So cut the city in half, and you got some people living in freedom and some people living under great oppression. This is the divide that sets the stage for the Cold War. So it starts with this issue in Germany by itself. Well, now look at my next map. It spreads to darn near most of the world. So again, we have blue and red, and those are going to be very distinctive colors. The Soviet Union is always going to be associated with red. Communism is going to be associated with red. So that's why the color is, fitting on the map here. And you can see that what direction is this on the map? North, south, west, right? All spells W and E. West, the western side of the world is considered governed by the United States, democracy, capitalism, and freedom, whereas the eastern half of the world falls under what's known as the Soviet bloc or communism. And I really like this top view of the globe because you can see how encompassing it is in the northern hemisphere, really to include, we darn near touch each other when it comes to Alaska, right? I know Alaska is not one of the 48 contiguous states, but if you take ourselves all the way up to Alaska, you might be able to see Russia from your backyard. So this is not something that is just a small area. It's not just two countries with a local issue. It's a worldwide issue, an international issue. This sets the stage for the Cold War. Nazi.
If you actually in Alaska, did you see Russia?
So there, I haven't been personally, right? I can't verify with my own eyes, but there is said that there are portions of Alaska where you can see Russia from your backyard. But I'm talking like the tippiest tip of Alaska and the tippiest tip of Russia. But, if you really wanted to get into military tactics and how to invade, reasonably, that could be a launch point for an invasion if you're going to do a land force.
Senator Papa went to Alaska and could see the lights of Russia.
You see the lights of Russia? Okay. And that's a great question. And the reason I phrase it like that is because one time the governor of Alaska, at the time Sarah Palin, she basically said that, almost in a joking format, she said that I can see Russia from my backyard. Point is that she was saying, Alaska shares a border with Russia. So, I don't know how good your eyesight is, but reasonably, yeah, you can darn near see Russia from certain portions of Alaska. Good question. Let's go on a class field trip sometime. We'll see for ourselves. Verify for ourselves.
Let's get it approved today.
So now I'm going to, I want to really distinguish between these two philosophies, okay, these two things that I hope I've been describing, that there's a divide here. Well, the divide is the difference in capitalism and communism. And there is, I don't have a slide for that. So just pay attention because this sets the stage for everything else we're about to talk about. Capitalism, I want you to think about us, okay? We live under capitalism. We live under democracy, and then of course with that comes freedom. Capitalism is the United States. Capitalism is characterized, now it's an economic philosophy characterized by private ownership, competition, and the free market. If you make rocking chairs and you make rocking chairs, I just picked a random item, and you decide to sell yours for $10, righteous, you're going to try to trim costs as much as you can. You want to be competitive, you decide to sell yours for $8. Aiden, you have a choice. Which rocking chair are you going to buy?
How much is it again?
10 and 8.
I'm gonna go. What type of brand you got?
Man, just answer the
just-
question.
Isaac.
You're dogging on them a little bit, but guess what? That's exactly what a customer gets to do. This is $10, but is it worth it? This is cheaper, but is it worth it? And a customer gets to decide.
You want some
That
brand
is just
shoes?
one, yeah, he's like, Kyra, you're dogging on me, but I was right. Hey, that's just one small example, right? I just picked rocking chairs as an example.
And you,
That is something you guys do every day, and it's very normal to you. You walk into the gas station, and you can decide whether to buy Pepsi or Coke based off of your preference. You can buy the name brand donuts or the off-brand donuts based on your preference. That's capitalism, right? Yeah, I really don't have to explain capitalism all that much to you because it's what you live under.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that what you live under is not the way everyone in the world lives. There are places in the world governed by this philosophy known as communism, and still true to this day. Now, communism has fallen off in a lot of places, and that's what we're talking about these next couple days. But communism is characterized as state ownership. Isaac, you're going to be a teacher. Hope you like it. Righteous, you're going to be an auto mechanic. Don't argue with me. Madison, you're going to be a home builder. It is what it is. And you make $1,000, and that's that. The state tells you where you live, what your job is, and determines how much you make. The state tells that to you.
can't you just move?
And then
And then there's that.
I love the thought process there, right? That is so pure and just so honest. Can't you just move? In communist countries, no. Because of the military rule and what is known as totalitarian rule. Total, you see that word in there?
Hey, I got a
Total rule by the ruling class. A philosophy of communism, and hear me on this, you could spend a whole college semester talking about these philosophies, so I'm just giving you this much. But communism pits the ruling class versus the working class. And the root word, look at it, communism, what's another word you see come out of that?
Common.
Commune.
Common, commune, and then community. Yeah, all three of those words. The idea of communism is a lot of times pitched as, oh, we're all in this together, we're just one big community. And while that might sound nice, in practice, it has never, hear me, never worked. Because inevitably, there's a ruling class that oppresses the working class. When in power, people will seek to stay in power. And those communist leaders across time and history who have been in power have done brutal and awful and atrocious things to their people, to include murder of all types, genocide, starving, separating families, political prisoners, never to see their families again. This is communism in practice. Knox, I'll get you in a second. So now to contrast these two, a lot of times, as we teach the Cold War, we see an us versus them, and a good guys versus the bad guys. We live in America. We come from this American perspective. We like to think we're right all the time. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you facts, and I'm going to let you decide. Now, I think I know what you will decide, but I'm going to give you facts, and I'm going to let you decide which philosophy, which government is maybe better to live under. History has kind of decided for itself as well, so that's, of course, all the facts that we're going to look at. Knox and then Kyra.
It's like in North Korea or something, they like trying to escape, like shoot you, but like
That's exactly right.
as soon as you get like South Korea, they'll.
So North Korea is present day a communist country. Okay, North Korea is definitely I like to call North Korea the unicorn because of how much they are cut off from the rest of the world. That's right, and we will talk the Korean War, so I'm gonna save some of that for that conversation. But Knox, you're exactly right. Should you be able to escape, it's almost like finding freedom. Okay, and it's almost like the American Civil War time period when slaves would escape to freedom. It's a very similar attitude, right? It's a fair comparison to make. But in that escape, not many people actually make it to the other side. So Knox, you're exactly right. Ira?
Go ahead.
So communism means basically like they control the people that stay there.
Yes, that's exactly right. Now I got a little funny on the screen. I'll let Ms. Roger go ahead.
And not everybody wants to escape because that's all they know. When you live in these types of countries, they cut off all like media, social media, anything like that to the outside world. Why? Why do you think they do that? So you don't want to see what's going on in other countries. So you don't want to know what else you can have. And so you do have some, that want to escape, but you don't have near as many as you would had they had the opportunity to see it on television or through the news or social media.
They're like
So you have to keep that in mind as well.
Brainwash is a fair word, not.
It's brainwash.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I love that you are wrestling with this idea here. It's hard for you to even start understanding because you haven't lived it. You haven't lived it. So you're probably being shocked by, wait a second, some people live like this? And I appreciate the maturity of the conversation here. Aiden, what you got?
So they can't go on like vacations, like they can't fly out?
Outside of the country, it'd be very difficult. Outside of their region, that's kind of dependent on their local leaders. But bottom line is restriction of freedom.
So what happened to people that go to Russia? Like they can't fly back?
Well, okay, let's make it current. Anybody know the name Brittany Griner? Anybody hear about Brittany Griner in the past couple of weeks?
Oh yeah, she WNBA player.
That's right. She's a WNBA player. She plays in Russia, and that is a common thing to do. A lot of WNBA players also play in a Russian league, and for financial reasons, there is an exchange of citizens, of travel. Okay, so it's not like straight up barbed wire around the whole country, but she got arrested at the airports, and we could say that she committed a crime. She had some this oil, but she's basically in secret prison right now, and it is very difficult for the United States to know her current status, her health, what's going on with her case. So that is an example of if you get detained inside a country where we don't have good relations with them, it's difficult for to know how it's going to end for you. Does that make sense? Good question. Let me round this out. Our buzzer just went for the bathroom break, so we'll do that. This is a bit of a funny, and I'm not trying to make any jokes about communism. But you all have an iPhone, right? It's your phone. It's personal for you. Well, in the Soviet Union and under communism, it would be as if they have a Wii phone, right? There's no personal ownership. Yeah, it's our phone. It's a Wii phone. So just one little rim shot there to try to make it describe a little bit better. And again, let me give this to you one more time. We're talking about democracy, capitalism, and freedom. And here's the dividing line. A lot of times it gets called the steel curtain because of how sharp that dividing line is. Talking about communism for the rest of the world in red there. So, boom for the pause point. And let's go ahead and go to the restroom. We'll come back, and there's still popcorn.
What's
here.
up, Mr. Swats in class?
You might still be wondering why there's popcorn here. So now hey, just go.
Third block, I was just fit check.
Name the brand. Oh, sorry.
I know they're gonna be like, can I eat some? What, nigga?
Yeah, when I said shut up. Yeah.
Donald Trump, the best president ever.
No.
Why?
Hey, I don't want no character.
You want these?
Oh!
Bro.
Oh, dang, dang.
No, you're picking them up on God do it. I'm not picking them up. No, that's dead.
Gang, gang.
No. No, nigga, I don't want no money.
Give it to me, bro.
Bro, I'm not picking myself.
Gang, gang. Don't mess with the gang. Come on.
No, that's why I grabbed it.
You sliding, man.
All right, see you today. Sit down, sit down, sit down. See ya. Hey.
You can't handle that.
All right, let's keep going. But I gotta pull the screens up. All right, so super briefly, kind of already went there and opened the door to this conversation. When I say, nobody really says the phrase a hot war, but a hot war would be characterized as an actual shooting war, right? Troops on the ground, M16, hand grenades, field artillery, maybe missiles. But a hot war is when two countries actually shoot at each other. Open military hostilities, open conflict between nations. Maybe war is declared. Maybe they're still fighting without war being declared. That happens in the world. But a shooting war, that's a hot war. So that is not what this Cold War was. There's another characteristic of warfare, often called a proxy war.
My dog.
A proxy war is when, usually that's when a big brother nation uses a little brother nation to kind of fight on its behalf, such as the United States and Russia. We didn't want to enter into the open conflict with each other, but I'm going to use this little country and that little country, and they're going to fight each other. They're kind of expressing the differences between communism and democracy without the United States and Russia going at it toe-to-toe in open battle. Two proxy wars that we are going to be talking about becomes the Vietnam War and the Korean War. So based on who we supported, and I'm not going to give too much information up front.
We supported South Korea.
Okay, well, there it is. We supported South Korea. They supported North Korea. And yeah, we committed troops eventually, but it wasn't this open warfare between the United States and the Soviet Union. So this is called a proxy war. Proxy is a fancy word for kind of a substitute. Let's say that, try to give you an example here. Sometimes, let's say that your parents get jury duty and they're not able to go to the jury duty. Sometimes they can submit what is called a proxy to go in their place. So let's say mom gets jury duty, but mom has work. Dad might be able to say, it's different in every county, but might be able to go in her place. That's called a proxy. So it's almost like the war is being fought in our place, a proxy, right? Don't get too wrapped around that. I'm just describing the different types of warfare. Then that gets us to the Cold War, where there was not open hostilities, but rather this period of tension. And we've talked about that tension a lot. And here is the characteristics of the Cold War, kind of according to
David Flair.
not just according to Mr. Swanson, but I'm trying to put it into plain words for you. So first things first, you could characterize a Cold War with tension. We already had that conversation. Can you feel the tension in the air? Spying. A lot of activity in the Cold War, or the way that it was fought, was through spying. We spied on them. They spied on us. Lots of spying throughout the Cold War, and that leads to some great movies, leads to some great spy stories. But spying was a very real thing. Sometimes there were double agents. They would pretend to be Russian, but they were for the United States, and vice versa. Spying. Lots of spying that happened. Competing. Competing can be good or bad. Can you think of a bad way that we competed during the Cold War?
The space.
That's it. No, a bad way.
Oh, a bad.
I said we were trying to race to stockpile something. What was that something?
Arms race.
Arms race, and especially, CJ?
Oh, the nuclear one.
Nuclear arms race. Yeah, that's bad, right? When we're competing on who can have the most nuclear bombs, that's bad.
I blew everything.
But guess what? Competition can also be good for the world. What is a good
The
competition?
space race.
The space race. Even though we were competing with each other, we were racing to be first to the moon.
Oh, we was friends back
Guess
then.
who benefited from the space race?
Neil Armstrong.
Everybody. Everybody is right. Science, math, technology, exploration. Even though we were competing and we wanted to be first, the real attitude is that everybody benefited because we learned more about space and we actually sent people into space and to the moon. So sometimes competing can be good. Now here is a word you're probably not going to see in any textbook. This is kind of Mr. Swanson's word, and I like to characterize the Cold War as this: between the two countries, the United States and the Soviet Union, there was a lot of peacocking. When I say peacocking, what do I mean? What do I mean? You like that word? CJ, what is peacocking? What's that? To my face? What do you mean by to my face? Oh, two-face. I'll hear that a little bit.
I know
What is
peacock
a,
means.
it's kind of in the picture here. What is a peacock known for?
Colors.
Okay, spreading its tail. And while that is very beautiful, and if you go to the zoo, you see a peacock, it's very beautiful. But you know why a peacock actually does that? To scare its enemies, to try to look bigger than it is, and to try to show off. So a lot of the Cold War was posturing. I'm bigger than you are. I'm spreading my wings to let you know how mighty I am. I'm on my tiptoes just to try to make myself look a little bit bigger. Peacocking. Like I said, not a super academic phrase, not something you really find in a textbook. But you guys have peacocked before. I guarantee
I
you.
have it.
Right? You bow up a little bit. You try to push your chest out a little bit more than it actually goes.
Nah, everybody
You
knows.
probably peacock with. Hey, you come out of that tunnel for a football game. You guys are hooping and hollering. You're trying to show off a little bit. That's peacocking.
Yeah,
Right? So anyway, Cold War kind of characterized by peacocking. And I really like this little funny right here. So take a look at this. You see two security cameras just staring at each other. That kind of sums up the Cold War. Those two security cameras aren't doing any good, right? They're just staring at each other. Kind of what the Cold War was like. Not a lot of shooting, not a lot of open warfare, but a whole lot of just looking at each other and trying to see what the other guy was gonna do next. So moving on to this picture here, and I told you that the bear always represents the USSR.
Oh, I mean, I saw this.
Now check this out. Here's different perspectives for you, and I'm really going to challenge your American mindset right here. We always like to think that we're the center of the universe, right? The sun revolves around us. I'll take you back to that flawed scientific thinking, right? Guess what? The universe doesn't revolve around you, and the universe doesn't revolve around the United States. So here are the different perspectives. If you are the USSR, you got your little baby teddy bear right here, and you got this big bad Uncle Sam trying to take over your territory. If you are the USSR, you see the United States as the bad guy. But flip that perspective, and you're just little bitty Uncle Sam just trying to spread freedom and democracy around the world, and the big bad bear trying to take over all the world. You see the USSR as the bad guy. So what's funny about this whole time period is that both sides thought that they were the good guy. Both sides thought that they were the us and the other side is the them. Isn't that a bad attitude to have, us versus them? So very difficult differing perspectives during this time period. Oh, I'm not sure why I bumped that. Excuse me. One of the big things that we could talk about in this time period as well is this attitude called Brinkmanship. If I take you to the brink, where am I going? What's the brink? If I take you to the brink, where am I taking
Go to the cliff. Edge.
To the edge. That's right.
Said it like 20 times.
That's right. Did you ever visit? Anybody ever visit Providence Canyon in
I
Georgia?
have.
Sometimes it's called the Little Grand Canyon. You go to that edge of that cliff. You go into the brink,
I was scared.
and one little bump the wrong direction. What you gonna do?
Die.
You go fall in. Yeah. So this attitude of brinkmanship is as if to say that during the Cold War, time and time again, whether it was nuclear bombs or spying or even the space race, these two countries took ourselves to the brink, to the edge of the cliff. Maybe we're going to destroy each other, blow each other off the face of the planet with nuclear bombs, only to back off of it and save the world. So back to the cliff. Woo, we're arguing with each other. Back off the cliff. So this is called brinkmanship. And it was a very scary time period that you will never fully understand because you didn't live it. Me
I
neither.
did.
Her neither. But for people, maybe your grandparents' generation, I'm trying to think age-wise, probably your grandparents' generation,
My
they may have,
grandma
if they grew up in this time period, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, they remember a world where sometimes you weren't sure if the next news report was going to be that nuclear bombs were headed your way, and the world as you know it might be over for forever. This is Brinkmanship, taking yourself to the edge of the cliff and then backing off, and we're going to look at several examples of how that happened over and over and
During
over
that
again.
time, they were shopping for bomb shelters. Literally, like, you go out and shop for showers or whatever for your house. They were shopping for bomb shelters.
You see the phrase?
shop for showers in your house? They just always been there in my house.
You see the phrase, like a game of chicken? Now, when I introduced this to U.S. history this semester, they started telling me how they play chicken on their four-wheelers, and they play chicken with cop cars, and I'm like, I don't want to know what kind of chicken y'all play.
Yeah.
But like, if you're running at someone and you're gonna see who veers off first, right? That's called chicken. This is like playing a big old game of chicken. And then, politically speaking, this is a phrase that comes from President Eisenhower. It's called mutually assured destruction. That is as if to say, if you drop one bomb on me, by gosh, I'm gonna drop 1,000 on you. So if you fire one missile at me, I'm gonna launch my whole arsenal at you. And I guess what? You're probably gonna retaliate again. And then where do we have it? We have the world blown to bits. There's enough nuclear bombs in these two arsenals, USA and USSR, that had we bombed each other, we literally could have knocked the Earth off of its axis. Scientifically speaking, could have knocked the Earth out of orbit. Obviously, we know that the Earth is the perfect distance from the sun. The way that the sun heats the Earth, it's just right. So if we knock the Earth off of its axis, what kind of world do we have then?
A cold one.
We don't have one. Yeah, the Cold War. We don't have one, right? We would have destroyed each other. So that, a lot of times, kept both countries from doing anything irrational. Knowing that we wouldn't have just been bombing another country, but we literally would have ended humanity as we know it. Another really powerful picture here showing this is President Kennedy.
JFK.
This is the president of the Soviet Union at the time. It's like they're arm wrestling, but he's also got his finger over the bomb button. But if you follow the wire here, which bomb is he? Oh, he's sitting on that bomb. And then same thing right here. He's got his finger over the button, and he's sitting. It's as if they're playing chicken with each other. We're arm wrestling, but if I hit that button, it's just going to destroy everybody. One more really powerful picture here. They say, let's get a lock for this thing. Wow, what have we created? So are they working together in this regard?
Mm-hmm.
Little bit. They're enemies. Like in this case, they're doing the arm wrestling. But over here, it's like, wow, what have we created? We created a monster. Let's put a lock on this thing so that we don't destroy humanity. All of this goes into what is the Cold War. So, Cold War, I think I've pretty much said everything. I'm just gonna make sure I've said it all. Ushered in a new approach to foreign affairs for the United States. Previously, the United States attitude, this is a touch of U.S. history, but the United States attitude had been to try to stay out of wars. We didn't get involved in World War I until we got drawn into it. We didn't get involved in World War II until we got drawn into it. Well, now this is a time period where we are more engaged in international affairs. Instead of waiting to be drawn into something and fighting as a last resort, now we're going out first. And we're going to try to police the world to make sure that there aren't problems around the world. The United States did not take a role in leadership role in foreign affairs until after World War II. However, at that time, President Truman says it is our responsibility to make the world safe for democracy, to reduce the spread of communism. Okay, so again, we're not sitting back, isolated. We're going to get involved. We're going to try to police the world. So now, Truman Doctrine. This is on your page. This is the very next one. All right, Truman Doctrine stated this. This is write this down, kind of a word for word thing. The United States will support any nation threatened by communism. We're not going to sit back and watch it happen. We're not going to let the communists invade and try to deal with it afterwards. If you are threatened by communism, we will get involved. So that's the shift in policy.
Ain't he the old president?
He's the one. What did he do? We just talked about. What's that?
Yeah, them.
That's right. He chose to drop the nuclear bombs to end the war in the Pacific. That was one of your questions on the exam yesterday. Why did President Truman, that's this guy right here, why did President Truman drop the bombs? And the correct answer was to prevent a mainland invasion of Japan.
Yeah, I got that.
That's right. So the Truman Doctrine, now, he's leading in a world after World War II. He's leading in a nuclear age, and he has to try to keep the world from blowing itself out of orbit, like I just described. And the Truman Doctrine is one of those big things that he comes up with. If you're ever president and you write a big old policy, you can name it after yourself. So maybe someday there'll be the Brinson Doctrine or the Collins Doctrine, but for now it's the Truman Doctrine because he wrote it, he named it after himself. And it's basically a big belief that the United States is kind of like the world police. We, as a superpower, have an obligation to protect the rest of the world from communism. So this is the Truman Doctrine. I see some of y'all still writing, so I'll give you kind of a half beat here before I move on. I got one more phrase of the Truman Doctrine to be showing you here.
Is that good?
Mostly good. I know some of you write. Some of y'all like to write. Some of y'all like to write every word. Aiden's not one of them because he's eating donuts. I'm gonna move on. I can always go back. The goal of the Truman Doctrine was to stop the spread of communism. And you don't necessarily need to write what's in green, but this is an actual quote, right? You see the quotation marks. Truman Doctrine says it must be the policy of the United States to support free people who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or outside pressures. Translation, we will intervene if necessary to prevent the spread of communism. This is the Truman Doctrine. Political cartoon here that kind of shows it. In this cartoon, communism is called a virus.
Oh, we dropping millions of dollars.
Have we all learned about viruses recently?
Yep.
What do you know about a virus?
Flu.
What do you know about obviously COVID? We've come through this COVID time
It
period.
spreads.
Viruses can spread. How easy or hard is it to spread?
It's the coronavirus is spreading less than a week.
Quick spreading, right? That's exactly right. So
smart.
here is something you guys can understand pretty well because you've lived through some history yourselves. A virus can spread. Well, at this time, communism was called the virus. Now, not a virus that is spread biologically, but it's still a virus that could infect all around the world pretty rapidly. So just like with COVID, we have the variety of things that we would do to prevent the spread. On a simple level, you cover your mouth, 6 feet distance. We wore masks for a very long time, and some people still do. Though we prevent the spread of COVID. On the extreme example, sometimes we quarantine for 5, 10, 14 days, whatever the different policies were. So there's a way to stop the spread of the virus as well. Just like there's a way to stop the spread of the virus of communism. Aiden, I think you already said it. What is President Truman doing here? Money, yeah, money. Now, he is in a hot air balloon. So how far away from the issues is he? Yeah, he's like hovering in the sky over the issues. He's not getting dirty. He's not getting his hands involved, but he's spreading money as a way to prevent the spread of communism. A lot of the Truman Doctrine was about giving money to nations who needed to rebuild, especially after World War II, in hopes that it would prevent the spread of communism. 2 of those countries are Greece and Turkey. We actually give $400 million to Greece and Turkey in hopes that they'll rebuild their country, and in rebuilding their country, they're going to not fall to communism, right? Because if you're weak and you're broken, and someone comes in offering you money, are you likely to be friends with them? Mm-hmm. Yes. We were hoping to be their friends before the Soviet Union swept in and became their friends. So sometimes you got to buy that friendship. In the case of Greece and Turkey, that's exactly what we did. Now, 400 million is equal to about 4 billion today. So pretty heavy amount of money going to these 2 countries. You got to adjust for inflation because this was in the 40s. Overall, it's pretty much everything I've said. Instead of isolating ourselves, now we are involved in world affairs. We are kind of playing world police. We are being involved in all other countries, not just our own. This is a new precedent, right? This is a change in the American attitude overall. So this really puts the U.S. on the world stage. This is why it's world history, not just U.S. history, because now the U.S. is the kind of like #1 superpower in the world at this time. Containment. All right, containment now. So the Truman Doctrine, I like to call Truman Doctrine the playbook. Where my athletes at? Where my football players at? You got a playbook?
No, we ain't got it
You
yet.
ain't got a playbook. Well,
No,
okay,
you
but
want-
you have a playbook.
Like
Like you know what a playbook is, right?
Yeah.
The playbook is the whole thing. What's inside of the playbook?
Plays.
Plays. How many?
A lot.
A lot. We'll go with a lot. Okay. Truman Doctrine, that's the playbook. That's the whole thing. But inside of the playbook, there are several plays. Containment is one of those plays. And containment says that the U.S. will give economic and military aid to stop the spread of communism.
Write that
So-
second bullet down.
There you go. Yeah, write this second bullet down under containment. We'll give economic and military aid to stop the spread of communism. What break that word down? What base word do you see? What root word do you see?
Communism or
Right here. Break down containment.
contain.
Contain. Yeah. So Aiden, can you be contained on the football field? Aiden says he can't be contained. Well, let me ask you this: if you want to, eat some snacks, right? You have a snack time at the house. What do you get out to have the right amount of snacks?
Container.
Container, yeah. Or maybe you keep your cereal in a container or your sugar in a
This is
container.
what I just get in there.
My point here is
Donuts were in a
to
container.
contain something means to hold it close or to keep it where it is. This is what containment is as it's related to communism. We want to keep it close and not let it spread. It does align with, you see that word there, the domino theory of how communism might spread. So I'm going to move one slide here to show you that. This is actually, now, has anybody ever played with dominoes before?
No.
Anybody ever set up dominoes, like 100 or more dominoes? And you got to be careful, right? You set them up just right. And when you knock over that first one, what happens?
They all
Just like the picture there. And sometimes it's really fun to have different shapes. And some people get real creative and real artistic with it. This is the domino theory of communism. Now, this picture right here, this is actually U.S. foreign policy. This is not just some random picture that I made. This was the belief at the time. China is communist, all right? China has fallen to communism. Well, because China fell to communism, it might affect Korea. If Korea falls to communism, it's probably going to affect Vietnam. You ever heard of those wars? Right?
I have.
We're going to get there. If Vietnam falls, then domino effect. Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Burma, India. The domino effect of related to communism. The belief that if one country falls, all countries in its area would fall in order after that. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Is falling to communism? Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Obviously a thumbs down, right? So we want to prevent the domino spread. This is a theory, but we want to stop it right here. We want to make sure that it doesn't spread any farther than China, which has already fallen to communism. So that gets me to containment, and pretty much you've already written all this, all right? United States policy using numerous strategies to prevent the spread of communism. Now, initially, it is focused on those red countries. When I showed you the big map, those red countries. But this policy is in effect all the way till 1991. And it leads to similar attitudes in Latin America and Africa and all around the world as well. So it starts with the containment of communism, but it does spread even farther than that. Here's a couple pictures here, and then we're going to get to the popcorn. So I'm sure you're wondering what the popcorn is for. So political cartoon of the time period. Now, red represents what? Red.
We're showing.
Right, yeah, but and what attitude?
The big bear.
What? Okay. What political philosophy?
Communism.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So red, and you can even see the arrows. It's spreading, and this statement here is it's your choice. Where do you draw the line?
We draw the line
Do
right
we
there.
let communism spread into these island nations? Do we let communism spread into Australia, New Zealand? No, baby.
Now we just
Or
like cut it off all the way.
we draw the line so that it doesn't spread.
That
Okay?
must be a knife.
That's a knife saying we're going to draw the line right here. We're not going to let communism go any farther, because if we do, look at this picture. Is this your tomorrow?
Nope.
Is this America under communism? What's the picture? What do you notice? What stands out to you?
Everybody gonna be.
They're trying to kill them.
They're going to come for our women. They're going to come for our children.
You can't go.
Those flames, what do those flames kind of make it look like?
Everything's on fire.
Hell. Yeah, the picture here is trying to say that communism is hell on earth. And if the communists invade America, if they bring their totalitarian dictatorship attitudes to America, and it's going to be like hell on earth. They're going to come for our women, our children, our churches, our businesses, our freedom. Communism is hell on earth. Now this is an extreme depiction, obviously trying to get the attention of Americans around the world. And then one more here. This picture describes communism as the Red Octopus. What does it look like that octopus is doing?
Over the world.
Yeah, so, octopus kind of a creepy character, right? He's got his tentacles, and he's just, I don't know what you think about octopodes, but, kind of looks like a scary creature. Kind of looks like a scary creature there. Better than the other plurality.
Why just could?
Point is, an octopus, and a red octopus at that, may get its grip on the whole world, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. So what we become is the world's police. By pledging to stop communism where it's at, contain the spread of communism, we kind of become a globo cop or the world's police. This is a prevailing attitude that we're going to take into the next decades. There's a movie that came out in 2008, and it's terrible, and I hope you never watch it, but it is called Team America World Police. Because
I watched it. I already watched
yeah,
it.
it's a terrible movie, and I hope you never watch it. But the point is, Team America is the world's police.
I need to watch it.
Obviously, we want to see ourselves as the good guys. We want to see ourselves as the good guys, as the world's police. So, it's popcorn o'clock.
Facts.
Popcorn o'clock. Facts. That's right. All right. This is a demonstration. This is a demonstration. So you gotta bear with me as I get it set up. Make sure I got all my words right too. All right. I'm gonna pull this desk over here so I got a little table top to work with.
Oh, I know you better put it in that.
You like my container? You like my container? This is the Swanson family popcorn bucket from Disney World on Christmas time. Obviously, you guys
Get ready for the space race.
it's good for the space race. I like that. He's got a Santa hat on because it was a Christmas time frame thing. This,
I love it, y'all.
This is, all right, alien here. This is the Soviet Union.
Can I buy it?
This is the Soviet Union. The popcorn is
The communist.
communism. So the popcorn is going to go into. Popcorn is going to go into the Soviet Union.
Don't spill it. Don't spill it.
Oh, don't spill it. Why not?
Cause I don't want to eat up
Well,
the
the
Oh, shoot.
Soviet Union, you couldn't. Sometimes communism just spread a little bit, and you couldn't necessarily keep it from spreading. So let's see it. All right.
Can I get some?
I ain't got
Soviet Union. Soviet Union. We'll get there. Take a seat. Take a seat.
I was just trying to help.
Soviet Union, communism. Now, as the Soviet Union wanted to spread its influence around the world,
Spread some popcorn to me.
certain countries fell to communism. So one of those countries was Hungary. I'm going to ball Hungary up. I'm going to put it inside of. Oh yeah, one of those countries was Slovakia. It fell to the communist sphere of influence.
How old is that
Man,
popcorn?
it's hard to keep communism where it's at. And another one of those countries was Albania. Albania. So same story. It falls to communism. Now,
Oh, she from Lebanon.
those countries that are inside of communism, if I try to pull these countries out of communism, what happens?
Oh.
Where you messing up the popcorn?
But
Bro, I'm about to sweep up
you know
so
which
much.
country is this?
It's probably
You know what? Hungary all of a
Y'all
sudden
that.
smells like communism. Hungary's got some communism grease on it. It's got some salt and butter on it. Hungary is drenched in communism. And so is Slovakia and Albania. Now, containment then is the lid. Containment is the lid. What can communism do when I have a lid on the container? Now it's not spreading. You see the mess that I made when communism was open? But containment and containment policies is the lid. So containment was designed to help
Back open, we got containment.
countries like Greece and Hungary. Remember we passed
That's Turkey.
400 million, that's what I meant, Greece and Turkey. $400 million aid package to help these two countries. Because we passed that money, These countries may border the Soviet Union, but what are they not in? The Soviet communism, right? They are not drenched in the popcorn of communism. Now, yeah, they're bordering it, but they're not in it. Now, what if we wanted to rescue a country like Slovakia, Albania, or Hungary? What if the United States wanted
Then we have to go in.
You guys are exactly right. If we open the lid, break the seal of containment, and we go into
Bro, I'm about to sweep up.
Bro.
Bro, just spread, bro.
communism spread. So there's actually a story of an uprising in Hungary where some we'll fix it. Some anti-communist rebels were actually trying to overthrow the communists in Hungary. Doesn't that sound like something we want to be a part
I
of?
gotta sweep up.
Doesn't it sound like we would want to help these Hungarian rebels? The problem is, if you break the seal of containment, one, it would be declaring war, and two, kind of opens the door.
Hey, shout it.
Containment
Oh, they got
is
stuck in
the
there.
lid. Say with me now. Containment is the lid.
The lid.
Somebody clap for my demonstration. All right, Knox, since you're just so anxious to sweep up, go ahead and come on in. Now, I don't have enough popcorn for everybody. It was just for the demonstration. You got donuts, boy. You got your powdered sugar donuts. All right, I'm going to let Knox kind of get to sweeping that up for me while I continue. I got to continue onward. So I hope that you will never forget containment is the lid. Now, one more play out of the playbook, right? A play out of the playbook is the Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan's on your page here. I want you to associate, you're helping them out, Marshall with money. Hey, so, okay, I got it. I know I spun you up. I know I made a mess here. I did it on purpose. But help me out. We got to get a couple more nuggets here before I get to your algebra class. Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan is all about money.
What do we write?
Write the blue words. Write the blue words. All right. The Marshall Plan was a 4-year program. It did not last quite as long as the other policies, but it was a 4-year program. It was money being given to countries in Western Europe with the purpose or the hope of rebuilding them. And by rebuilding them, they would be inclined to be friends with us and not the Soviet Union. Go ahead. It's my fault. Sweepy deepy. Is that how you use it? Is that like really how you use a broom?
No, I'm just pushing out.
You filming for his mama? Like you trying to? Oh, this on. Is that how your mama taught you to sweep? Yeah. Hey, raise your hand if you use a broom like that. You do?
Y'all were weird.
It's easier.
It gets all this. It gets Harry Knox. Get this swept up so everybody will get distracted.
The guys, I'm just so.
Write the blue words. Write the blue words. When he's out of the way, I'll keep on.
They're trying to bust him, Mr. Swanson. Mm-hmm. That part was busting to do like that.
You want some?
No,
he don't want it anymore.
Give me some up and give me some up.
Yeah.
Here, Knox.
Oh.
Give me the broom. I'll be the paddle. Now you come from this direction. We really are teaching him how to sweep right now.
Now I know how to
See now you got the skin of your line? Yep. Push.
How about that?
Look at that.
I'm here. You be kicking the bad thing.
Claps for Knox. Applause for Knox, everybody.
Hey, thank you, bro. Thank you, Knox.
All right, hey. Had fun. Let me round it out now. Marshall Plan, money. I'm going to give you the cheapest way ever to remember it, right? Because sometimes I like cutesy little memorized things.
They hate me, y'all.
Marshall and money, M&M. Marshall Plan is about money for rebuilding. So write that down, M&M, dollar signs, whatever you need to do. The Marshall Plan is always about money for European.
I know Eminem, he be a rapper.
Marshall money.
I was
M
thinking
with
the
M,
candies.
Marshall
Oh,
money.
This guy's like the rapper, and I'm thinking candies. All right, M&M. Marshall Plan and
Not the
money.
real Slim Shady, please.
Now,
not
the original program was actually called the European Recovery Program. You don't need to write that down. I think that is more descriptive than the Marshall Plan, because what it actually was recovery for European nations, and that is the whole point of spending that money. We just came off of World War II. All right, you guys are writing this down. I'm just going to speak a little bit more information for you. We just came off of World War II. The fighting did not happen in the United States. The fighting happened in Europe. bombed out, broken down, shattered economies, shattered, broken churches, broken schools, broken apartment buildings, much like the stories we see coming out of Ukraine today. That was all of Western Europe.
Are we winning?
So the whole point is we spent money to rebuild Western Europe. I got two pictures here to kind of describe that for you. Overall, we spent $13.3 billion in this. You got to multiply that by, I think it's like 7 trillion. All right, like it was buku money. It was actually 5% of our national budget at the time. And just so you know, by comparison, today, even as much money as we spend on other countries, if you pay attention to the news, there's always money going to other countries. Today, we spend 1% of our budget on other countries. At this time, we spend 5% of our budget. That's a lot.
A lot.
That's a lot. A lot of money going to other countries. And here is how you can really, here's how you can visualize it. So you see all those dollar signs? That is representative of who got how much money. So you can see that of that big amount of money, it wasn't evenly split. It wasn't the exact same amount of money to every single country. In a way, we kind of played favorites. Our besties, you got a bestie in life, Aiden? You got a bestie? You don't have a bestie?
No.
Yeah, our besties, such as the United Kingdom and France and Italy, they got the most money. But we slid a little money to Iceland. We slid a little money to Portugal, little money to Turkey and Greece and Hungary, etc. So point is, it was not an even distribution of money, but and as you can see from the dollar signs there. Stephanie, what's your question?
5% is a lot. How much would it be if it was more?
What do you mean?
Like you said, 5% is a lot.
Don't get into my clothes.
What? Like if it was higher than that, how much would that be?
If it was even higher than 5%? Well, here's the comparison. Today we spend 1%, and then we spend 5%. It's hard to adjust for inflation. I'd have to get a calculator out to see what the comparable dollars are. But we spent more money then on other countries than we do now. Yeah, if we need to do an inflation adjusted calculator, we can do that. But the point is, we spent significant amount of money on other countries through the Marshall Plan. And today, you might say, what are you doing? Get away from me. Boy, just all sorts of go away.
I don't want the
See you today.
I don't want the book going.
Did I answer your question? I'm not sure that I did. Is that what you're looking for, more or less? All right, so there it is. There's your big associate. That is Mr. Marshall, okay? General George Marshall. He goes goes on to be the Secretary of State. Yep. Marshall and money. Marshall and money.
That's a $200 bill.
Got it? You got it? You got it? You got it? Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Say with me now like you're in church. I got it. Hallelujah. All right, guess what? This is my stopping point. This is my stopping point for today. All right?
Good job, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. This guy, that's like 2 compliments this year.
What's the year? I'm in third year.
4852.
So I'm in 1952.
Yeah.
Bro, what's up with you in bed?
For
All right, so here